The Tampa Bay Buccaneers injury report is longer than a CVS receipt and has time run out on Kirktober and the Atlanta Falcons. Time for this week's NFC Squad.
You are talking ball with the NFC Squad. From the Cowboys to the Packers, the Falcons to the 49ers, and everyone else around the NFC, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming weekend for hard-hitting NFC football with our harder-hitting takes. Buckle up, it's the NFC Squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings allowed. Squad up, you're part of the NFC Squad.
And welcome into this week's episode of NFC Squad. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get ready for another wild week across the NFC. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. And joining the squad today, this week, Gino Camilleri and Louis DiBiase, Locked On Eagles. You don't get individual introductions. Stop cheating. You're both going to get introduced at the same time. Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys. Brian Peacock, Locked On 49ers. Everybody, big round of applause to the NFC West. Finally coming through for an NFC Squad episode. We appreciate you coming through, Brian. James Yarko of Locked On Bucks. Hang in there, buddy. We're going to get to you here in a minute. Patricia Traina, Locked On Giants. Aaron Freeman, Locked On Kirktober, coming through to take some medicine. But we do have to start in the NFC South, but with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. James Yarko, pull out the receipt, buddy. I mean, I'm counting 9 people on the Buccaneers IR. They're about to get a 10th with Chris Godwin. You've got almost a practice squad's worth of players on the IR. What is going on in Tampa with the injury situation?
The world is a dark place and life has no meaning.
All right.
And
that's how we want to kick it off here at NFC Squads. That's
sounds like a Falcon fan.
That's exactly the message we're looking for.
Very poetic.
You know, I talked all week long on Locked On Bucks, like, this game doesn't matter. Losing to the Ravens means absolutely nothing. All that mattered was Atlanta. And you lose Mike Evans in the beginning of the game. It's like, oh, that's tough. Mike's a battler. He wanted to play. He wanted to be out there. He wanted to contribute, and he did. Had the first touchdown of the game, should have had a second until his hamstring snapped like a rubber band. And then it's like, but you know what? They're going to be okay. The game got bad, but you know what? Up against Atlanta, you still got Godwin. This 3-headed monster rushing attack is looking good. Then to have Godwin's foot completely flip all the way around, and he gets carted off in an air cast with 43 seconds left in the game. And it was like the collective heart of Tampa was ripped out of their chest. People are still bummed, walking around today, let alone, the night of the game, the day after the game, all of that. And it could effectively really end their season. So, it just, for a guy who was one of the top receivers in the NFL in a contract year, looking to get a mega deal, hopefully with Tampa, but it could have been for any one of your teams. It was heartbreaking, especially for the kind of person Chris Godwin is. So the world is a dark place and life has no meaning.
Look, so a lot of people are questioning Todd Bowles' coaching decisions. And if there's somebody who knows a thing or two about questionable coaching decisions in games involving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's our good friend Peter Bukowski of Locked On Packers.
What does he think he is?
3 times. Peter Bukowski, since you're joining the show here, you midstream here, let's get your take on this, man. So there's really 2 coaching decisions here that some people are talking about. Obviously, most people are talking about the late one that ultimately is part of the Chris Godwin injury, but also there's the Mike Evans injury. Should you allow the warrior mentality to trump good common sense coaching decisions and say, you're not 100% Mike Evans, this is only one game, sit you down for a week, bring you back next week, and you'll get your record and you'll do all these things? What do you think of that decision? Then also go into the late game decision, having the starters out there with less than a minute down 2 scores.
I just would like to say, for the record, Aaron Rodgers should have run on that 3rd down in the NFC Championship game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was Matt LaFleur. Okay, I get it, but Aaron Rodgers should have done the thing first. I think this just sucks. It's just one of those things that just we can't swear on here, but stuff happens right? And I'm going to chalk this up to stuff happens. The Mike Evans one especially, like there's soft tissue injuries, just there's no accounting for that. And also, like it has to be said, this is exactly why the NFL wants to get rid of the hip drop tackle. These plays are dangerous. And the old man yelling at clouds in me wants to say, well, you guys signed up for this. This is part of the game. Like you're never going to outlaw all of this stuff. I look at a play like this and I go, this is why they want to do that. And I totally understand that. Now with a minute left, should they be out there? Probably not. Like Lamar Jackson's not in the game. So no, they shouldn't be out there. But I also understand, hey, we're playing for next week. We're playing for the Falcons. So let's get a little rhythm. Let's have some positive momentum. I see both sides of it. But again, I go to the hip drop part of this and I say, this is the case for why this stuff, they're trying to legislate it out of the game, even if I don't think that's going to work. And even if I think it's going to lead to all sorts of other bad outcomes on bad plays where it's like, that's not really a hip drop tackle. Like, what are they supposed to do? I'm not for more subjective officiating calls, but like, this is why they want to do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, for the record, and everything's easier to criticize, right, in hindsight when the thing has happened and all that stuff. For the record, I don't know about James Jarko, but I'm watching that game, and as soon as you just mentioned, as soon as Lamar Jackson, the Ravens starters are out there, it's kind of the international sign for, hey guys, this game is over. And so when I saw the Bucs stars come back on the field, personally, I was like, bro, like take your starters out, just worry about next week. Let's get this game over with. So just kind of a moment of transparency there. Brian Peacock
against the Ravens, you never know what's going to happen. Like the Ravens, they're known to blow these things. Like ask Landon McCool. Like the Cowboys almost came back on the Ravens. Like the Raiders did come back on the Ravens. Like if anyone's going to blow a 90+ percentile win percentage, it's going to be that team.
Yeah, I gotta say, I wasn't terribly shocked that they tried to come back and continue to play that game because of exactly what Peter just talked about. But I just to kind of echo the point on the hip drop tackle, just real quick. I think that we've talked about this probably on all of our shows. The legislation of how difficult it is to play defense nowadays. I don't think the hip drop falls into this category. This is a decision that you make while you have your arms wrapped around the guy. You make a clear decision to completely drop your weight and to bring him down that way. That's different than trying to make a split decision while you're striking a target at full speed. Like that's a much more difficult thing for me. I think the hip drop, this is very clear. Just don't do it. And I think you miss the tackle, if you need to, but don't drop the hips the way that happens, because you're just pulling these guys down and all kinds of just terrible injuries.
It's not really any different from the horse collar tackle. Like guys had to figure out a way to bring guys down without grabbing that part of the shoulder pads. Just don't do it. Like again, to Landon's point, you can make a decision to not do this. Just don't do it.
No, a lot of very valid points. Brian Peacock, Locked On 49ers. I do want to get you in here in this segment. Thank you for coming through again, representing the NFC West for the first time in our squad series. So you weren't here for this one, unfortunately, but Aaron Freeman had a pretty classic moment here in our very first squads episode where he rattled off all the months of Kirk Cousins. There was Kirktober, there was Kirkvember. There was just a lot of Kirk nicknaming going around. Brian, it looks like Kirktober might be over and done with. What are your thoughts on just overall how this veteran quarterback has gone to Atlanta? Do you see that as an experiment that is working, or do you think that maybe the Atlanta Falcons are kind of starting to be exposed a little bit?
Well, first of all, appreciate you guys inviting me here onto this NFC squads and getting a chance to represent the NFC West here in a division that's really just not carrying their weight either on the network or just in the NFL this season. But when we are talking about coaching decisions, can we talk about the decision to allow Peter to show up again late to this broadcast? Whose decision was that?
Oh, now it's almost mandatory. Now it's almost mandatory.
It was mine. Cody told me to show up late. You can blame Cody.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Team player, Peter Bukowski. Well, you know what? It's certainly not Brocktober, because Brock Purdy played awful last week, and Kirk Cousins. Look, dude is unbelievable. I love Kirk Cousins. The Quarterbacks Netflix show just gave me another level of appreciation for how important everything is to him, how hard he works, what it takes to be an NFL quarterback, and I guess we shouldn't be shocked that he's successful in another location and proving a lot of people wrong that might not have believed in him. I don't know about renaming months after Kirk Cousins, the Cousinsian calendar instead of the Gregorian calendar. Is that what it's going to be now?
We've taken this as far as this can go, I think, guys.
I think it's got to be Gregorian. It's got to be Gregorian calendar. I think is what you got to go. You got to go first name on that.
All right. Well, we are going to get Aaron Freeman. This segment is over, and you might be relieved, and you might be thinking you've escaped, but you have not. We will definitely get back to Kirktober, and we will find out what the latest is in Atlanta. And we'll also talk about a couple of AFC receivers that might become center points or focal points of future NFC Squad episodes. That's coming up next on today's episode of NFC Squads, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This week's NFC Squads episode is brought to you by Game Time, and Game Time has a feature on the app or at gametime.co called Game Time Picks that makes getting your tickets to your favorite live events even easier than ever before. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curated deals make it easier for you to find the best price on the greatest seats. For example, my Game Time Picks here in the DMV feature tickets to see the Pittsburgh Steelers visit the Washington Commanders for $127, or I can see the Boston Celtics playing the Washington Wizards this Thursday night for $41. And I've got that all-in pricing feature toggled on my app. So when I get to checkout, there are no surprise fees. All those prices are right up front. So take the guesswork out of buying your live tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Today's NFC Squads episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and with Prize Picks, you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's right. Prize Picks is the best way to get into the action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. So sign up today and you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So you go in there, you look at those receiver stats, you look at those quarterback stats, and if you feel like you know that this player is going to get more than that stat line or less than that stat line, build your team 2 to 6 players and up to 4, or with even just 4, you can win up to $100. Cook up your hot takes, download the app today, use a promo code LOCKEDONNFL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks. Run your game. Continuing now today's episode of NFC Squads. Thank you for coming through and making the Locked On Podcast part of your daily routine. Aaron Freeman, this is a show where everybody has to take their medicine, and this is rotated every week. I'm really glad that not one person is just getting picked on, but today is your day, buddy. Kirktober is what you claimed. Kirktober is not what went down in week 7. Explain yourself.
Well, we started Kirktober with the beating of the Bucs. We hopefully will end Kirktober with the beating of the Bucs. But yes, there was a little bit of a bump in the middle of Kirktober with the Seattle Seahawks coming to town and taking care of the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins did not play well. Maybe, he was looking at the calendar thinking it was Kirkcember instead of Kirktober at this point in time. But hey, the positive thing from this game was Bijan Robinson. Maybe we should rename the month to, okay, I don't know. I can't.
No, I thought you had that ready. I thought you were
dead, my friend.
No. So, but he was great on Sunday. That was about the only thing that was great about the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. So, we got to figure it out. And, I think Kirktober is going to be just fine. This is a blip on the radar. That's all.
Landon McCool, how happy are you to see Kirktober come to an end before the Dallas Cowboys November 3rd matchup against the Atlanta Falcons? And is there a chance that Dak Prescott will get a month named after him in the following month?
Dak Vember is listen, we were really trying this too hard. I was actually going to ask Aaron, is there any actual evidence? We've seen the evidence for Kirktober, obviously, despite last Sunday's performance. Is there evidence for Kirk Vember? Because obviously as a Cowboys fan, I'm interested in playing the Atlanta Falcons in week 1. I'm of November. I'm interested.
Yeah, he was pretty good in November in Minnesota. So there is some Kirk Vember vibes going on there.
All right, well, let's see. It's going to be interesting to see exactly if this trend, if he can rebound Kirktober, because it gets spooky near the end of October. I don't know if you heard, guys. So it'll be interesting to see if the Bucs kind of rear their ugly head and end this quickly for us. And maybe the Cowboys get an angry Kirk in early November, and it's a revenge tour in November.
Is he sponsoring this show?
if the Falcons lose to a Godwin and Evans-less Bucks team, Aaron Freeman is never, ever allowed to say Kirktober again, ever.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought up those receivers, James Jargo, because there's two receivers on the AFC side of things. Mike Williams of the New York Jets. Well, Cooper Kupp is not on the AFC side. I don't know why I said that. Cooper Kupp from the NFC West, Brian Peacock, who both could be on the move here in the next couple of weeks before the NFL trade deadline comes around. I want to go around the horn here, and I want to get some landing destinations for these two receivers. So even if you don't think one of these receivers is going to come to your neck of the woods, where do you think they could end up, or where do you think it makes the most sense? And we'll go to a team in the Philadelphia Eagles that probably doesn't need either one of these guys the most. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's go with Louis. Louis, who do you think needs either Mike Williams or Cooper Kupp the most?
Yeah, I keep seeing the Eagles, and I don't understand that. They gave up a third-round pick for Jahan Dotson, and they don't even throw him the football.
How he does it again. Wow.
Amazing. Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
I've been seeing that a lot. The Eagles get kind of thrown into these trade discussions. This one I don't think they'll be involved in. I think Tampa Bay is the obvious one just because of the injuries, right? I just think if Tampa Bay, as James said, if they want any chance of having a shot of winning the NFC South and not just winning the division, but you look at this wild card race in the NFC, like it's absolutely loaded. The Eagles, my team, is 4-2 on the outside looking in. So if they want to keep up in a loaded race where all four NFC North teams are currently in one of the top 7 seeds, they've got to get a receiver. So I know it's kind of the low-hanging fruit, but I really do think it's got to be Tampa Bay to keep Baker Mayfield afloat.
Patricia Traina, any chance that the New York Giants are getting in on either of these players for starting quarterback Drew Lock to work with?
No, don't see it happening. If anything, the Giants are going to be sellers, I think, at the trade deadline. If I had
Giving up.
Well, if I had to take a guess as to where one of those receivers, I'm going to say the 49ers. I mean, didn't they just lose Brandon Ayuk? I mean, don't they need some help out there? Peacock? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, Brian Peacock,
that would definitely be one. And obviously Tampa Bay, as Louis said, that's the low hanging fruit. But yeah, they're not coming to the Giants. Joe Shane's not making that deal.
49ers absolutely need some help at wide receiver. And Kyle Shanahan said that they're going to look into it. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been really aggressive, probably the most aggressive team at the trade deadline throughout their tenure. They brought in a wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders a few years ago. Last year it was Chase Young, obviously the Christian McCaffrey deadline trade a couple of years ago. So they've been very active, and Kyle Shanahan said that they would look into it. It doesn't mean that there's the right move is going to be there, but it seems like there's enough needy teams and enough teams willing to trade away wide receivers that some of these deals are going to get done. But my question is, do the New York Jets continue to flop and flip Devontae Adams before the deadline? Because they did it early enough to where they have time to where they lose 2 more games. And they're like, wait, what are we doing here? Let's get that 3rd round pick back.
Flop them again.
I would love Devontae Adams getting traded twice in the same season. Go ahead, Peter.
I was just going to say, if Ayuk tears his ACL a week sooner, do the 49ers get in on the Amari Cooper deal?
Yes, because I think the 49ers have already made a lot of calls about those players when they thought they might have been trading Brandon Ayuk in September or August. So there was probably a lot of those conversations and groundwork already done. And at those times, if Devontae Adams was already available, and let's be honest, he probably should have been, because what the heck are the Raiders even doing? If Devontae Adams was available in August, or Amari Cooper was available in August, maybe Brandon Ayuk's a Pittsburgh Steeler right now, and one of those guys is on the 49ers roster already. So I think the 49ers have made some phone calls. Now, both of those receivers have already been traded. But, throw a name out there, I think the 49ers are going to make a call on it. Will they spend what it takes to get a guy? They did draft a 1st-round wide receiver who just made his first NFL catch on Sunday in Ricky Pearsall. So they have, I think, a perfect opportunity to see what they look like against the Cowboys this week. They've got a rookie 1st-rounder in Ricky Pearsall. They've got a rookie 4th-rounder in Jacob Cowing. Both have flashed in various ways in their short time with the 49ers. Do they look good enough to where Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are cool with it? Maybe do a lesser deal at the deadline, and they have a bye week to figure things out before the trade deadline. I think the 49ers are a good bet for a team to be active.
Pretty lucky to have the bye week before the trade deadline, right? Like, and any less opportunities to lose a game while this is happening, because the closer we get to the trade deadline, like they could be sellers if the season kept going this way. Like, they wouldn't probably, but if John Lynch is safe and Kyle Shanahan is safe, like that might be the right way to handle the rest of this season without Ayuk, We'll see about Deebo Samuel. Like, this offense just does not look like anything close to itself. And it doesn't seem like we're anywhere near Christian McCaffrey coming back anytime soon with his Superman cape on.
I know this is an NFC show, but is there a chance that KC is a buyer here? Like, I mean, that's the one that I immediately came to mind when I saw.
Diana Rossini said the money is the problem with that. Like, the Rams would have to eat basically all of the money.
But they're willing to. I've heard that they're willing that the asking price is a second round pick, and that they're willing to eat some of the money. So to me, that seems to.
Would you, if you're KC, do you give up a first and say, Rams, eat like all the money? Let's get it down to a minimum. Eat all the money. We'll give you a first round pick.
I think it only takes a second, and they'll eat this year's salary. I don't know about future salaries. The buying team would have to figure that out.
They can figure out future salaries.
You can always rework the deal.
Yeah, so it makes perfect sense. KC to with Cooper Kupp to KC. You know, the initials are already there.
Hey, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. We'll see if the NFL teams can get these things worked out, and who knows, we may have another receiver joining an NFC Squad episode here in the near future or not. We'll figure it out. What the NFL was hoping to have, though, was 2 top quarterback picks from this year's NFL draft facing off this Sunday. That may not happen, and coaching decisions, right? Speaking of coaching decisions today, are going to play a part in that. So we'll talk about that. And are there any MVP contenders in the NFC? That's coming up next on today's episode of NFC Squad, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This week's NFC Squads episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can get a big return right now from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because when you've got a hunch in the middle of any game you're watching, whether you're watching your home team, whether you're watching your favorite team from across the country, whatever game you're watching, you got a hunch in the middle of it. This player is going to explode in the stat box. This team's going to come back. This team's going to cover the spread. This team's going to do whatever you think they're going to do. Not only can you go to FanDuel to make that wager and put your money where your knowledge is, but you can also go there to view the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and get so much more information, all in the exact same place where you can place that bet. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed for any new customer when you place your first $5 bet. So again, that's your first $5 bet, win or lose, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. The Washington Commanders are 2.5-point underdogs against the Chicago Bears this weekend. The over-under on that one is 51.5 points. So you can choose that game or any other game going on. Take full advantage of this latest opportunity by going to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Wrapping up today's NFC Squad episode. Thanks again for coming through for this week's NFC Squad. And the NFL guys, we all know when the NFL gets these schedules going and they match up all these contenders, whatever, they want to get the best storylines they possibly can in the best possible spots, right? So week 7, they were hoping they scheduled the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers for a 4:05 p.m. kickoff from jump. The only reason you do that is you're hoping to get Bryce Young reinvigorated, Jayden Daniels with a little bit of experience under his belt. They didn't get Bryce Young, and they only got Jayden Daniels for one drive. Then, before this week 7 matchup, they flexed Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders week 8 to 425, looking for that Jayden Daniels 5 out of 6 Rookie of the Week awards for whatever that's worth versus Caleb Williams. And now Jayden Daniels got a rib injury and may not be playing in this game. So maybe Caleb Williams versus Gino Camilleri's Marcus Mariota. Gino, we'll start with you because I'll tell you right now, man, covering Dan Quinn and Aaron Freeman, you know this very well. Dan is not the guy to say, well, you're medically cleared, spirit of the warrior, go do your thing, young fella. Dan Quinn is absolutely the guy who's going to say you're medically cleared, but I don't feel comfortable putting you out there right now because I don't think you're fully you. So we're going to sit you. He did that with Brian Robinson in week 6 against the Baltimore Ravens. He'll absolutely do it with Jayden Daniels. So Gino, put on your coaching cap here and just looking at the situation, take the NFC East rivalry out of it, of course. If Jayden Daniels is medically cleared, is this game important enough to you to roll Jayden out there, even if he's not necessarily fully himself?
Let's go to how we started the show and what Tampa Bay just went through. Would you want to be in that Mike Evans situation, that Chris Godwin situation? I don't think anybody would want to be. And at this point, Washington has enough divisional games, 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles still, which are right behind them. Those are the games you have to focus on. The division wins count as 2. You get one team gets a win, the other gets a loss. Obviously, that's a 2-game swing. I think Of course, the NFL, Mr. Roger Goodell, wants it to be that way. And I think right now more people would probably want to see Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow than Marcus Mariota and Caleb Williams. No offense, Marcus, but it's a long remove from his Heisman days. But at the same time, Jayden Daniels, if he's ready to go, this isn't going to be the first time in his career that he's going to be tasked with playing injured. Let's be honest. If he's medically cleared, like you said, David, he's got that warrior mentality. There's a reason he went second overall. I think you just have to let him go and sling it. And if he believes that he can, all power to him.
If you're a Washington fan, though, right, you got to be so nervous about a number 2 overall pick coming in banged up. I mean, that would give me nightmares.
That's never happened before, Lou. There's never.
I was gonna say,
there's no
maybe not the
there.
organization, but the fans. I'd be like, not this again.
If they're going to make that
Peacock is
injury
tied to a
worse,
little bit of
you
that
sit
history
them.
right now.
Luckily, the difference between ribs and a knee is enormous. Like it's really just a pain threshold thing. I think if you're a Commanders fan, you kind of want to see him go out there and play through it because look, on this Zoom, like everyone on this Zoom probably weighs more than Jayden Daniels, Patricia Traina excluded. He's so small, he's so little. And so you worry about these injuries and he needs to, I don't know the DC food scene well enough, but like get him some Five Guys. Like he's got to put on some weight because this is going to be the problem for Jayden Daniels moving forward is he's going to have to stay healthy. It's not the ACLs and those injuries that anyone like Tom Brady tore his ACL for crying out loud. It's these sorts of hits. It's do you just have the body armor to make these plays? That's what I want to see from Jayden Daniels. And I want to see him go out, wear the Game of Thrones chest armor plate underneath the thing. Like I want to see him do that. And if he can do that, like, is there anything else any other box he hasn't checked? Like Lauren Cox is ducking David Harrison on the show because he doesn't want to come on and say the Bears made the wrong pick. Like Lauren, come on the show. What are you doing? Afraid to compete.
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, the pain threshold is the biggest part of it because I mean, structurally, it's already been basically determined like he's structurally pretty much as good as you can get. It's about that torque and that twisting of the upper torso to get the trajectory of the ball, get the velocity, all that stuff that you got to see if he can withstand. James Yarko, I want to ask you though. We're going to wrap up this topic with you because you're the closest to this situation, feeling it the worst this weekend. What is your opinion? What's your take?
I think, and I hate to say that I agree with Peter Bukowski, but I agree with Peter Bukowski. Like this is a pain threshold thing.
Record the day and time.
You know, this isn't a hamstring. This isn't a knee. This isn't the throwing shoulder. This is, can you handle, that soreness? Can you still be who you've been for the first part of this season, which has been absolutely amazing? I cannot remember the last time I was excited to watch Commanders or Washington football team games. And I'm excited to watch them if I can, because Jayden Daniels is so much fun. So can he still throw the ball, effectively? And it's not hampering him. Can he still take a hit and not be knocked from the game? I think it's kind of an apples and oranges situation. And of course there is inherent risk anytime there's a play being run. Is it worth it for the Commanders to move forward with their star to outduel the lesser rookie quarterback? Or do you learn from Tampa and you say, you know what, let's make sure that he's 100% just in case. But no, if I'm Jayden Daniels, I'm probably trying to play. If I'm a Commanders fan, I'm not scared if he takes the field.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Dan Quinn has been very conservative with injury management on this team this season, and we expect him to be equally conservative. But you all make very good points. It's not like it's his throwing arm. It's not like it's his knee. So it's a different animal altogether. It's not like Johnny Newton coming off of a foot surgery as a defensive
player's
lineman.
Got to play,
It hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
It hurts so bad.
And look, Jayden was starting to get in MVP conversation. I know there were a few national people who were bold enough to say he's in the MVP conversation already, but he was at least starting to kind of generate a little bit of buzz there. Had he beaten Lamar Jackson, even though they don't play against each other, he probably would have been in there a little bit firmly. But right now, it looks like Lamar Jackson, I think, is probably the favorite. Patrick Mahomes is the second favorite. There's some other people holding on to some other names out there. But guys, the final question here on this week's NFC Squad episode is there a legitimate NFC contender to the MVP. And I want to go counterclockwise. We're going to start with you, Peter, and we're going to end with Gino. So, guys, what do you think? Is there a legitimate NFC contender to the MVP crown this year?
Let me
You
just
better
say,
not say Jordan Love.
let me first just say, I think Mahomes being 2 is ridiculous. I think it's absurd.
Agreed.
Like he is right now on pace to set a record in the next gen sports era for average depth of target on the short end. Yes, he makes every play at the end of these games, and they win in large part because Patrick Mahomes can make 1 or 2 plays. But the only reason, and as someone who watched Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, Packers defenses give up 40 and they lose, it's like the only reason he is in position to make those quote unquote clutch plays is because this defense is outrageous. And so I just think him at 2 is bananas. I would have Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is the answer. Jayden Daniels is the leader in the NFL in EPA per play right now. And over the last decade, the only 2 players to ever lead the league in EPA per play, or the only MVPs to not also lead the league in MVP and EPA per play, were Cam Newton in 2011. So you go back 15 years, and Lamar Jackson last year. This is a bellwether. It is a harbinger. And if he continues to play like this, I think there's going to be narrative momentum on his side, unless Lamar is like 45 touchdown passes and rushes for 1,000 yards. Like, he's going to be beholden to his last MVP season and hit the one before that. Jayden Daniels is the name to me because narratively, if they win 11 games, like with as bad as we thought that defense was going to be, and this offense is absurd right now. Like yards per drive, yards per play, historic pace on efficiency. The last 10 years, we're talking about the 2018 Chiefs and this offense. That's not an exaggeration. If you look at some of the advanced metrics, the answer is Jayden Daniels, and there isn't a close second right now.
Jared Goff. I mean, I know
Locked
On Packers doesn't want to say it, but
First of all, Locked On Cowboys, it's Aaron Freeman's turn.
Are we sticking this only to the NFC, or can we go?
We are NFC Squad, Aaron. If you want to go to the AFC Squad, they tape in about 30 minutes.
I mean,
Usually over there.
I'm just saying, like, I think Josh Allen's probably the actual conversation for number 2 behind Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
especially
that's great for an AFC Squad episode. But what about an NFC Squad?
Yeah, I think in the NFC, I think it is Jared Goff over Jayden Daniels at this point in time. Now, obviously there's still a lot of football left to be played, and Jayden Daniels can certainly close the ground on. He's certainly by far the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I think we need to see a lot more from Jayden Daniels, especially with Cliff Kingsbury. Week 8, Cliff, like, this is the time of the year where his offenses usually, go downhill. So I need to see Jayden keep that offense afloat and be the anti-Cliff, sort of beat those allegations before I can really start having a conversation about him being MVP.
Yeah, that's fair. Louis, what you got?
Yeah, I don't think there really is a serious MVP candidate in the NFC right now. Maybe it's Daniels, maybe it's Goff. I'll say the Eagles actually might have the best non-quarterback case for an MVP in Saquon Barkley right now. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Sorry, Patricia, but yeah, I really actually don't think. I think all the favorites are in the AFC, but if I had to choose one, I'd probably say Goff as well. 9 touchdowns, 1 pick in the last 4 games. He's cooking.
I actually think Beige Tober is anytime the Eagles, Locked On Eagles, get a chance to talk about Saquon Barkley. That's what Beige Tober.
Patricia
really
came to the show today. I couldn't help it.
He's just fine though, right, Peter? Just a fine running
Just keep twisting the knife. Just keep twisting the knife, man.
We'll see how the
Patricia Traina, Locked On, would rather pay Daniel Jones. Who's your NFC MVP?
No, I would not rather pay Daniel Jones. Oh my gosh. I got to go with Goff. And, the Lions, if they make it to the Super Bowl, especially if they go deep in the playoffs, I think Jayden Daniels is a terrific young player. But I'm with Aaron. I think you want to see a little bit more. You don't want to make a snap judgment just based on 7 games. You want to see if he can keep things going, especially when the weather really starts to turn and more challenges pop up. But, for me, it's got to be Goff, especially, like I said, they're a Super Bowl. They're in the discussion for a Super Bowl, that team. And, if they make it, I think it's hands down him.
All right, James Jarko, the host that last covered a Super Bowl run in this room.
If you had asked me this last week, I would have made the case for Baker Mayfield. And because of the injuries to Mike Evans, to Chris Godwin, I think his chances are gone. But that was a quarterback that was in top 5, in most of the passing categories, still leads the NFL in passing touchdowns and total touchdowns. But I think because of the injuries now, we're going to see a pretty significant drop off. And so, yeah, I'm with everybody but Peter. And yeah, it's Jared Goff right now. And I love Jayden Daniels. I already talked about how much I enjoy Jayden Daniels. They're not giving the MVP to a rookie. Louis is wrong, and Saquon is not the number one non-quarterback. I mean, I guess if we're talking NFC only, maybe, but no, that would be Derrick Henry. He would be the one that's in the conversation for non-quarterback MVP. But yeah, if you're going to pick someone from the NFC right now after week 7, it's Jared Goff, who lost to Baker Mayfield.
Does anyone know the last rookie in the NFL to win MVP?
It was Jim Brown.
Probably like
that's
Barry
an
Sanders,
AFC squad
maybe?
question. Brian Peacock, Locked On 49ers, your NFC MVP candidate, sir.
Well, since Brocktober ended abruptly in week 7, I would say Jared Goff is definitely the leading contender right now, and it has become a quarterback award. Saquon will not be sniffing the award. Derrick Henry might steal a couple votes from Lamar Jackson. He's not going to win the award either. And look, with the Jayden Daniels stuff, I think it's important for Jayden Daniels to go out there and play and make sure that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't wrestle the credit away from him because of how good Marcus Mariota looked when Jayden Daniels was out of that game. So he's got to go out there and play and play hurt. And I want to help Aaron out as well, because if Kirktober continues into Kirkvember, you might get an opportunity for the Atlanta Falcons to play potentially deep into January. You're welcome.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys.
I'm not doing these shows anymore.
Okay, next week
this is
You guys set
painful.
the stage for it. Okay, I'm new to this. I thought I had to do it.
I think for me it's Goff. I think he if he can continue to play the way that he is, and that may be a big if, I don't know, but I think he's the last 2 or 3 games he's really taken it to a new level. I mean, an area where I didn't think he could play, and I've seen the guy play in the Super Bowl before, so I think he's playing his best football. I think he's the most valuable player in the NFC. But I'll throw a bone to Peter here, because I do think that after watching, the Packers, we're doing it for a segment on our show. If Love can kind of stabilize things a little bit, he's got the best weapons to kind of to make a run like this, to kind of catch up. And I think, we talked about Baker being the touchdown leader, but that was only for a little. That was only for a little while that Jordan Love was actually leading the NFL in touchdown passes. Now he's also leading the NFL in interceptions. I'm pretty sure as well. He's got to turn that around. But I think he's the other guy that potentially could, be a late.
He's on pace for 45 touchdowns and 24 interceptions. One of like the just all-time fun seasons. Like that's Dan Marino in the mid 80s kind of stuff.
Jameis Winston
At 20 interceptions,
Winston.
that's a Jameis Winston line. Absolutely. It's Cleveland Browns starting quarterback, Jameis Winston. Gino Camilleri, wrap it up.
I hate that it's a quarterback award, because if this team had a quarterback and they were any good, this player would probably get way more recognition. I think Dexter Lawrence is on pace to do some freaking crazy things this year. And if they were a playoff team, he would probably get recognized as such. And he's doing Aaron Donald-like things even at a higher clip right now. And we all talked about quarterbacks. I wanted to flip it on its head. Sexy Dexy could play some football, man. He is a very good football player.
Wait, I know we got to
traded to the Vikings. Let's get that out of there. I see that all the time.
Patricia,
that's not happening.
Patricia, if the Rams go full sell mode and want to give Matthew Stafford away, would the Giants make that call? Let's make a run. The NFC East is wide open. Let's go do this. Brian Daboll, Malik Neighbors, come on, Stafford and Neighbors, that would be outrageous.
I don't think so. Because what are you going to give up? This team is not
whatever.
A chance to draft a quarterback is what you're going to give up.
Yeah, but you can get a quarterback in the draft.
Cam Ward could be anything. He could even be as good as Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, but how old is Matthew Stafford again? Somebody.
We are in ass covering time in New York right now. Like after what we saw over the offseason, like we got to cover some asses in this place.
Away. And look, if they were one quarterback away, I'd say absolutely make the move. But this is what
they
got
go 4-13. It's over.
The
They're going to be on the unemployment line.
He inherited somebody's sloppy seconds, and now he's going to. I just think it would be best if he takes a young guy, grooms him the way he needs him to, and just just goes from there.
And gets fired in a year. Sounds great.
I don't think he's going to get fired.
I think
New York's an
I-
import
I-
and export city. They're importing in New York and
over
exporting in
it.
I
players.
think Dable gets another year, right? Although I don't agree with his decision to keep with Daniel Jones. You know, I would at this point I'd play Tommy Cutlets. Not that I think they have the
Don't even
answer,
bring
but
that name up.
yeah, Gino likes it too. Yeah, I would play
Want the
Tommy
food.
Cutlets. Why risk that injury guarantee? I don't understand what they're doing there. With how Daniel Jones
They're
played,
gonna win
and
5
that
games.
injury history.
They're all
Come
out.
on.
Saquon's gonna
All
be
right.
offensive player of the year, and they're gonna all get fired. Watch.
So we all agree Jayden Daniels is the only NFC MVP candidate. I appreciate all of you for coming through. James Jargo can't remember the last time he was excited to watch
sleeping through that
Washington play
segment?
football. I'm excited every week to come through with our NFC squad, and I thank all of you for coming through for this week's NFC squad. We will be back here each week. Each of us here are here every day for you at our respective shows covering your favorite NFL team. So make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribed. Don't miss a moment of all the excellent coverage going on around this podcast network, even on the AFC side of things, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Wrong button.
Peter, don't you ever worry about walking the streets of New York?